Hey, folks, welcome back to Full Circle Wrestling. This is Dale and
Connor.
And we're here for Blow the Whistle, not the call. So we have a topic today. You want to go ahead and explain the topic?
Yeah. So when we're in neutral and, guys either chasing corner, comes around back and standing neutral, sometimes we have that person who's kind of defending that offensive maneuver. They touch a hand or maybe two hands or maybe a double touch. And I guess our conversation today is how much weight on the hands is actually going to, constitute control, constitute that restraining power, that position of advantage. How much reaction time are we giving them with that hand touch? And so one hand, two hand, both hands, two touches. I mean, all of these kind of seem like slightly different nuances. And coach in the corner is always going to say, hands down, that should be a takedown. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
I think the other coach is going to say it wasn't beyond reaction time, but I think your point is valid that there's different variables. I don't know if I subscribe a lot to the how much weight is on the hands because I have no way to
measure that.
I have no way to factor that. Yeah. And so that's a very obscure kind of thing in my brain to try to measure. Now I can measure reaction time.
Sure.
I can see if one hand goes down and then the other hand goes down. I can see those tangibles.
Yeah.
So for me, I don't go weight bearing on that.
Okay. And what about where the hands are moving? Because, I know some guys will move those hands down and almost forward like a bear crawl.
Yeah.
And some will push down and back up and start fighting hands.
Yeah.
And so are both of those going to be the same situation?
See, I look at them different for reaction time.
Okay.
When you start going from one hand to another, that's reaction. And that's enough time for me to probably at a decent level or a high level call it takedown.
Yeah.
Again, some of these were splitting hairs.
Yeah.
And
real close.
I would, there's lots of times where I'm like, hey, that ref nailed that call. That was awesome.
Yeah, it looked great.
And there's times where I look at the ref or some of my calls, I'm like, nope, we missed that one.
I've had some.
So being honest with that, some of these are 50-50.
Yeah.
And they're the flow of the match and how you feel and kind of like stalling maybe that one ref has a philosophy. And so hopefully we're consistent in that.
Yeah.
And I don't have a great answer. I'm still trying to define reaction time.
Yeah.
I actually just had a great conversation with Rod Frost in Minnesota.
Cool.
Talking about that. And I am 100% convinced that at lower levels, I'm allowing a lot more time.
Yeah. A little extra for him to get out of that, move through it.
It's just because they're not as quick. But at higher levels, I think one factor that you didn't mention on these rear standing or the hand touch kind of situations is if they're already behind them in a rear standing. So for me, in that situation, a rear standing, and then you kind of lift and they push and come back up, I'm very, very quick on that.
Yeah.
Because they've already established a position of control.
Yeah.
And restraining power.
Yeah.
And then the reaction time for me is a little bit less, where when they're kind of arm dragging and going behind and then the person pushes back up, they haven't really got to that rear standing.
Yeah.
They haven't really got to that position of control.
Yeah.
So there I have kind of two iffies. And so for me, that would be something I would look at. And then I think when two hands go down or one hand and another, I'm pretty okay with those fairly quickly.
Yeah. And I think the video that we have today,
Brown around behind. We'll see if he can return him. Hunt. Really?
It's kind of a situation similar to that, right? We've got one guy trying to get behind, and as he gets behind, we've got kind of I wouldn't even say a hand touch. It's more like a fingertip, right? Kind of a fingertip. And then we see a second fingertip back up, but then he immediately cuts and turns.
Yeah.
And so I think we were both okay with a no call here.
I think the ref did not call it.
Yeah. Signal no control. I believe this was the Pennsylvania State Finals.
Yeah.
And again, it gets back to that hand touch. And I've talked to lots of high level officials. I mean, you're certainly one of them, talked to others as well. And they don't think that fingertip touch is that takedown, especially when he turns and cuts.
Yeah. I've never heard anybody say finger touch or hand touch or something like that. Not saying it's not a used term or something like that.
Yeah.
But, in that first video from the Pennsylvania, we talk about they're scooting behind. And right when the guy kind of gets that rear position, that's where he pushes off with that one hand.
Yeah.
And I think to use your argument, or one of the criteria that you said was pushing off and weight bearing and all that, he clearly is weight bearing because he pushes off on the first one.
Sure.
The second one really is like, hardly. But I like what the official called on this one. I don't have an issue. I think he didn't already establish that position.
Yeah.
And it gave that reaction time. So in my brain, I'm trying to work around, did that wrestler at that level have enough time to respond? And in my brain, the answer is yes, because he clearly responded and came back up.
Yeah.
Now, if he takes another second longer,
sure.
Well, we had the opportunity and didn't respond. And maybe it's a different call on that point.
And the restraining power is in question too. You know, if that finger touch cut and turn happened so quickly, I mean, one might argue, was he really restrained? And so
I think the restraining power is because they're behind them. But in this case, he wasn't.
Yeah. And I might consider that more of a position of advantage as far as one of those criteria.
Yeah, exactly.
And was he really restrained?
Like if you're in a position advantage from rear standing, if you are restraining power, my thought on this would be the defensive wrestler wouldn't have put his hand down if you didn't have restraining power.
Yep. And I think that argument's valid.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Like no one's going to, that's like saying, I'm going to go from my belly to my back.
Yeah.
Now, don't rule it out because we've all refereed freshmen.
Sure. It happens.
And I'm looking behind and I'm
little
going
flip
right to my
flop.
back. But so, but I think having that set of criteria, and we're all different officials.
Yeah.
And I think I would be curious to know what other people look. I might push back a little bit on some officials with how much weight did they have on the hand? Because I think that's hard to tell sometimes.
Yeah, for sure.
So we'll see. But so that first one, I think we both kind of agree. We had the second one where they are in that kind of rear standing position, already probably behind them.
Yeah.
And then it kind of brings them down to the mat. And it's not really even a hand touch. It's a quick hip, butt kind of you land. And for me, I see it a little different in that scenario. Because it's not a hand.
Yeah, it's a hip.
And even though he responds very, very quickly, I don't know. I look at it a little different. What do you think?
Yeah. And so I do think the hip in my mind is different than the hand. You know, especially if we go back to that rear standing conversation, you know, if somehow he goes down to a hip and then pops back up, for me, I'm calling that, I think.
Yeah.
But the hand touch, I think I'm a little bit more generous.
Yeah.
And in this situation, you're right. He does go down to that hip, but then he kind of turns out of it. And so for me, I think the reaction time is within.
Yeah.
Kind of enough where we're still defending.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have control in that situation.
Okay.
But I could understand, you know, a ref saying going to a hip is much different than going to a hand. And in that situation, I'm calling that a little quicker. So I could understand that argument.
This is one of those where I give the referee a lot of deference in making that decision, because I think, you know, I watched it twice and it was pretty clear, but it's also one of those that doesn't really matter. You can't watch those things slow motion.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
Yeah.
And so if a referee doesn't call it and they're waving it off or they're saying no control, I can totally live with that.
Yeah.
I think my gut though tells me that I probably would have awarded 3 on that.
Yeah.
It's hard to say for sure.
Yeah.
Because I'm not there. I'm not
in the moment. Yeah.
In the whole match, understanding all of that.
Yeah.
But I feel like I'd probably say 80% I would call it.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I think it's probably within reaction. So I don't know. What do you all think? You think it's within reaction time?
Yeah.
Think you got that takedown?
Tell us I'd be curious what other cues people look for.
Criteria. Yeah.
You know, to establish that. And maybe we can bring on somebody and have a further discussion and all that. But so let's comment, subscribe down below to Connor's Tough Calls on the Mat or Blow the Whistle Not the Call on Full Circle Wrestling. Thank you.